The Clawline or Grapple Hook and Faydown Cloak or Double Jump are the two major traversal abilities that can be unlocked in Act 2 of Hollow Knight Silksong. They are essential to finding some of the game's most powerful items. This guide can be followed directly after my previous guide on how to unlock all Act 1 traversal abilities. It will show you everything you need to know to get from Act 1 to Act 2, and then to get both the Clawline and Faydown Cloak abilities. As usual, useful timestamps can be found in the video description. Before we get started, I have some important information that is worth hearing. First, if you haven't unlocked all Act 1 traversal items, I recommend watching that guide before this one, which I will link near the bottom of this video's description. Also, if you haven't already, I recommend farming up around 1,000 or more rosaries, then converting them all into necklaces for safekeeping. This will ensure that you always have the rosaries necessary to open up benches and fast travel stations along the journey. Finally, I haven't had enough time to test and confirm what quests or NPC interactions should be done before advancing to Act 2. In addition, while I am using a very bare bones character to make this journey, it definitely makes it tougher than it needs to be. For both those reasons, I highly recommend exploring the Act 1 regions thoroughly, especially the various vendors, before following this guide. Alright, with that, we will start at the halfway home in Greymoor and make our way west. Our goal is to open up a lift. After moving through several open areas, we will enter a tower-like structure. We need to make our way towards the upper east exit for it, which will require cling grip to reach easily. We will then want to move east along the same level until reaching a lift. We can unlock this lift to serve as a shortcut back to the halfway home. Feel free to go rest if needed, then ride the lift back up. From the top of the lift, we will continue moving up and towards the east. We should find the entrance to Sinner's Road there. We will then need to move further east until reaching a chamber with a sign pointing towards a bench. Following the sign, we will clamber up to reach an elevated exit out east. Swimming in the fetid water will get us the larva debuff, which drains silk over time. Because of that, we will want to do our best to avoid falling in as we platform our way up through this section. We can eventually drop down to a small chamber to the west where we will hit a lever to open up the exit out of here. Carefully drop down and to the west to reach the room with the bench, as well as Chakra, who will sell us the map for Sinner's Road. Unfortunately, rosaries are not enough to unlock the bench. We will also need to go through a short platforming section beyond a hidden wall up into the west of the bench. This section will take us below the bench, where we can slash away the vines that are clogging up the gears of the bench, which will allow it to rise all the way up. We can then use the return route to more quickly and safely get back to our next checkpoint. From here, we'll move back out east into the previous chamber. We will then need to make our way up and can hit another lever to open a shortcut back down to the start of Sinner's Road. Once we get up into the next section of Sinner's Road, we will need to move east, avoiding the muck roaches, roach keepers, and fetid water along the way. We can hit the lever at the end of this path to move into the next chamber, then carefully drop all the way to the bottom east exit. All we need to do is reach the end of this chamber and defeat 2 muck roaches. Doing so will unlock a nearby bench to serve as a checkpoint and also an NPC by the name of Styx. If we either die or load back into the game at this bench, we should get a free Silk Eater from Styx. In any case, we will move back out of this area and make our way up the tall vertical chamber that follows. We need to get to the dead bug along the east wall with an item pickup. There is a breakable wall there that leads into the next region that we need to tackle, Bilewater. We will need to avoid several swamp squits and mire mites as we platform our way towards the top east exit out of this first chamber. In the next chamber, we will need to ascend to the top of a tall shaft. There are a lot more enemies in the way, and they respawn after being defeated. That said, if you're struggling to get through this section, you can spend some time defeating these enemies to refill all your health and even top up your silk. In any case, we will reach the entrance to a new chamber at the top west corner of the shaft. Going along this section, we will be introduced to a new enemy type, the Stilkin, which shoots darts at us. For the most part, I just did my best to avoid these pesky foes as I moved west through 3 more chambers. Shocker can be found near the end of the second chamber, but the double jump ability is required to reach him, and we won't get that until reaching Act 2. For now, we will just go to and through the next chamber, then drop down into the east, which will bring us to the Bellways for Bilewater, as well as a much needed bench to rest at. Both of them do cost money though, so I hope you brought your rosaries. Now we don't have a map to reference, but we are at the Bilewater Bellway Station. From there, we will move west through a breakable wall to reach another new area, the Mist. One thing to mention here is that, as far as I know, this is the only area with the Wraith enemy type, and this entire area is temporary. So if you are trying to complete your Hunter's Journal, you will need to defeat several of them and do that before getting through the Mist. As far as how to get through the Mist, it is a puzzle of sorts. All the rooms are randomly generated, and we can only progress by going through the correct exit. The way we determine the correct exit is by finding groups of butterflies and playing our needle in for them. This will cause them to fly towards the correct exit, showing us the way. The Wraith enemies are particularly nasty and will attack us if we get too close to them. We can deal with that in one of 2 ways. The first way is to defeat them, but again, they are fairly dangerous, so watch out. The second way is to just run. This works well if we already know the correct exit and have a clear path towards it. To that end, playing the needle in near them will also temporarily entrance them and turn them passive, but this ends as soon as we stop playing. Also, sometimes it is better to just run into them, take 1 point of damage and get temporary invulnerability, rather than be snared in their grasp when they attack and take 2 points of damage. I'll let the rest of this section play out so that you might get some useful insights from the gameplay. but know that you need to successfully get through 4 or 5 chambers to finally escape the mist, and going through the wrong exit even once will send you back to the start. Once we make it through the mist, we will arrive at the exhaust organ. Running inside, we can dash past the single enemy and make our way up the first available path to reach a much needed bench. Again, there is no map for this area, but luckily it's relatively small. We will start by moving down into the east, then up the second path to the east. We will need to wait for the exhaust to pass, then go up the tube to the next safe spot. After the first tube comes a second, and we then need to drop down the third tube and dash to the west. Drop down one more level and move further west to open up a shortcut back to the bench. To reach the boss of this area and the last obstacle between us and Act 2, we will head east and back up the shortcut we just opened, this time going all the way up. We will then move east and watch out for the exhaust before dropping down into the east. The second tube that we have to go up doesn't have any exhaust to worry about, but the third tube does. Once we've gotten all the way up, we can move west into the boss chamber. The boss, Phantom, is no slouch. That being said, I found her a lot more manageable than the last judge. First, we should stand on the east side of the chamber when the fight is initiated in order to avoid the bursts of exhaust. As far as getting in damage, both the needle throw and basic attack of Phantom provide large windows for getting in attacks of our own. Another habit we need to get good at is jumping above her when we accidentally trigger her parry attack. She will eventually start performing large AoE attacks, and these are best avoided by sprinting towards the far side of the chamber from wherever you might be. Going towards the side nearest to you is a good way to get trapped and hit by it. When Phantom becomes enraged, she will perform a series of AoE attacks, which are best avoided by dashing back and forth between the two sides of the arena. After this is over, she will resume her various attacks, but becomes a bit more aggressive. The fight ends with us performing a parry and unlocking the cross-stitch skill. We can then move out west from the boss chamber and stand on a pressure plate to call down a lift. It will take us up to a very short platforming section that ends at the Grand Bellway Station in the Citadel. Before dropping down there, we may as well break through some debris to the west to get a free memory locket. Hopefully you brought some rosary necklaces, because we will need a few hundred rosaries to unlock the map for this part of the Citadel, Choral Chambers, as well as the 2 fast travel stations. The Ventrica connects the various regions of Act 2, and the Bellways connects the various regions of Act 1, and this is the only location in the entire game where both forms of transit are connected. Now it's time for us to get the Clawline or Grapple Hook ability. We will begin at the Grand Bellway in the Citadel. I recommend unlocking both the Ventrica station and the Bellway station here before moving out west into the Citadel. If this is your first time in Act 2, there will be a short interaction with an NPC. We can then make our way up this platforming section, and our first destination is the exit at the top west corner of this tall vertical chamber. That will take us to a new chamber where we can hit a lever to spin a wheel, then wall climb up it. There is a portal that we can open up and to the east in this area. Just be careful about running in, as there are exhaust plumes that deal a lot of damage in the next chamber. As mentioned, watch out for the exhaust as we make our way east. We will eventually arrive at the first shrine, and near the eastern ledge is the White Key. This next part is not required, but if we go into the shrine, we can slash away the webs and hit the lever to activate the bell. This will eventually result in a new town popping up here, along with a brand new shop that has some really good items. Once we've finished up here, we can move west and up, then east and up to reach the Ventrica station for this area, which I recommend unlocking. We can then take it back to the Grand Bellway. With the White Key in our possession, we can now access the Whiteward area of the Citadel. To get there, we will move out to the west, then platform up a short distance before heading through the first western exit we see. Moving further west, past several enemies and traps, we can hit a lever to open the way forward. In the next area, we will break out of the tower we are in, then drop down and go through the entrance to the Whiteward, which should be to our east. The White Key will unlock access to the lift that goes down into the ward, but it will also allow us to access the bench on the other side. After getting that checkpoint, we can ride the lift down into the ward, then move west up into it. There are a few exhaust and saw traps that we need to get through before dropping down into an operating room of sorts. I recommend clearing the debris to the east so that you have an easy escape if needed. This next part is not necessary, but you can move west to grab a Choral Commandment relic, which will trigger an encounter with a Dreg Husk. After defeating or deciding to run from the husk, we will move east into the next chamber and hit a lever to open a shortcut back to the bench. This will also open a new path on the east side of the lift shaft, which we can go into and then drop down to reach the map station for the Whiteward. Activating it will allow us to see where we are on the map. In any case, we will move further east and vault over a couple morticians and spike pits, then hop up to the upper level. Moving west here first will get us an extremely useful blue tool, the Injector band, which speeds up our healing speed. We can then move east over the previous chamber and jump down into the furnace. Following this one-way path will take us down into a new region, the Underworks. It's just a short distance down into the west from there to reach our next bench and checkpoint. I also equipped the Injector band tool at this point. We don't have a map for this area, but the Clawline upgrade is very close. From the bench, we will move west, drop down, and smack a wheel lever several times to activate an airlift. We can then ride it up to the western exit. We'll need to avoid enemies and hotspots as we drop all the way to the bottom of this vertical chamber, then move through the bottom east exit. As we move through this next area, we need to watch out for the explosive cogwork haulers, as well as lava falls. We can also smack this undersweep from below, making them easier to dispatch. We'll then perform a carefully timed wall jump to reach the exit that he was guarding. At the top west of this next chamber is a one-way portal that we will need to go through. It is then just a few leaps west for us to reach our goal, the altar that will give us the Clawline ability. Getting the ability will cause the platforms to disappear, and we still need to find an alternative exit out of here. For that, use the Clawline, Grapple Hook, Harpoon, whatever it's called, to spring from the many rings. The Clawline does take silk to use, so make sure that you don't try to jump and use it again too quickly if you are low on that resource. Give Hornet a second to regenerate some of her silk so that she can use the Clawline again. We will then need to Clawline our way up and to the west, and this will give us an opportunity to practice using it on enemies for traversal purposes. There is a shard bundle that we can grab to the west before making our way up into the east. There we'll find a chamber with a chain that can be pulled by using the Clawline ability. This will result in several waves of enemies that we must defeat. I don't use it much in this gameplay, but the Clawline is actually very useful for combat purposes in addition to being a good traversal item. In any case, once all waves of foes are defeated, a passage in the upper east corner will open, leading us back to the one bench that we've discovered in this location. As a quick aside, we can also now access the Architect NPC, which is up to the east of the bench, and she sells some really neat tools. I'll also quickly show the path to the Ventrica fast travel station for this region. It is to the west of the bench, down the first tube and through the bottom east exit. We will then move west through another exit and up to the west where we can hit a lever to cross a gap. Just follow the sign from there. With that, we are ready to get the Faydown Cloak or Double Jump, our last major traversal ability. The first thing we will need to do is get to the slab, and that will require us getting kidnapped. We will start at the Pilgrim's Rest Bellway, then move west and up towards the indicated chamber in Deep Docks. Given all of our traversal upgrades, this trip should be extremely quick and easy. There is the potential that you will need to hit one lever to unlock the way forward if you have not already done so earlier in your travels. Once we've reached this chamber, which will be easily reached with the Cling Grip ability, we will need to allow ourselves to be captured by the Warden Fly. A brief moment later, we can spam the attack button to break free of our cage. We are now in the slab, but unfortunately, we don't have any of our stuff. To get it back, we will need to drop down and go through the bottom west exit. We can then jump up and attack a breakable wall to open the path forward. Traveling up into the west, we will pass under our captors before heading out into the cold, which will start quickly damaging us if we stay in it for too long. Because of that, we should quickly drop down and enter back inside to the east. We will need to get past several penitent bugs as we move east, then drop down through a hole. If we want, we can speak to Grindel before going into the west chamber. There, we'll find the key of Indolent up on a chain, which we can strike to make it fall, then pick it up and move back out east. With that, we are now able to open the door where Grindel was previously near and run into the next chamber. We can follow the bench sign to reach our next checkpoint, as well as have another chat with Grindel. We don't have a map to refer to, but we can move west from here and drop down past the Guardfly, then move into the bottom east chamber. Opening the locked gate here will lead us into an arena where several waves of enemies will need to be defeated. We can manipulate the traps by stepping on the pressure plates to aid in this task. Once all waves have been cleared, we can move out to the east, then platform our way up as we avoid spiked wheels and traps. There are also pressure plates on the wall partway up that we will want to avoid. Getting to the surface, we will need to move west, stopping at braziers along the way to warm us back up and prevent frost damage. There is also a shortcut that we can open up at the end of this path, but that is mostly to aid in exploration after we get our stuff back. In any case, we will drop down through the hole on the west side of the surface to enter back into the slab. Following the signs will bring us to our next checkpoint. We can then move east and down before moving west. This will bring us to a spot above our captors where we can drop down and get our stuff back. That being said, we won't have any of our tools equipped, so this fight can still be a tad bit challenging to get through. Once we've defeated the last foe, we can grab the Key of Heretic, then move east to the nearby bench. We should take a moment to re-equip our tools, and although we don't have the map for this area, we can still at least see where we are in reference to the rest of the world. East of here is the first Heretic door that we will open. We will then run out and drop down to the bottom of this vertical chamber, going back through the bottom west exit once again. We can open the Indolent door this time, then drop through the hole that follows. Going through the east exit, we can drop down past the guardfly once more, then use the Key of Heretic to open the central passage down. We'll hit a lever to open the next passage down, then move through the west exit. Moving further west and following the sign will eventually lead us to a new bench, as well as the Bellway fast travel station for the slab. Once again, we don't have a map for this area, but we know that we are at the Slab Bellway, and that's enough for us to go off of. Moving west from the bench, we should activate the fast travel station, as that is our ticket out of this place. Before we take it though, we need to go get our double jump. For that, we will move west of the station out into the cold. With the Clawline ability, we should be able to cross the divide and reach Mount Fay. In the very first chamber is a bench to rest at, as well as Chakra, who will sell us the map for Mount Fay. All that stands between us and our double jump now is a whole lot of platforming with the Clawline. The first section starts to the west, then eventually goes east as we move up. The heat lamps will provide us with warmth as we move through this section, but we need to move quickly between the platforming sections if we want to reach them without taking damage. The first section out to the east is the best example of this, requiring a very good pace to avoid damage. Keep in mind that you can Clawline immediately after hitting an enemy with it, as doing so generates silk, but if you hit a ring or plain air with it, then it will take a second before enough silk has been generated to use the Clawline again. The second section of platforming here will require us to combine our air dash with the Clawline in order to get through a dual-sided spike trap. We then need to quickly Clawline between several driftlands to reach our next safe spot. After moving west past some spools of silk, we will need to carefully drop down the tube that follows, avoiding several nemonids along the way. Our goal is to land on the western ledge about halfway down the tube, then move into it. There is a really full spool of silk here that we can harvest and use to heal up if needed, and then we will need to move west past a hostile servitor Borin and break through some debris to continue. There is a checkpoint just beyond this next section, but this section is very unforgiving and will likely result in death if you fall into the frigid water. Don't get tricked by the ring when you first see it. We need to first Clawline the nearby Nemonid to get the height needed to then hook the ring and continue to a safe spot. It is then just two more precarious platforming sections in order to reach a checkpoint. If we go out to the west of the chamber with the bench sign, we will see a mask shard floating nearby. This cannot be reached until after we have double jump. For now though, we can break through a wall down to the east and head through it to reach the bench. It's safe to say that this bench is probably worth the 90 rosaries, especially if you struggle to get this far. After resting at the bench, we can hit the nearby lever on our way up and out to the next platforming section. Once again, we will need to chain our Clawline ability to platform up and to the east, keeping our silk reserves in mind so that we don't mistime anything and end up falling back down. There is another dash Clawline section after the next safe spot, but this time it is followed by a more demanding Clawline maneuver to reach the next section successfully. Once we've made it to the top east chamber, we will need to use our cloak to carefully drop down a tube lined with spikes in several sections. Don't take too long though, as we still have the cold to worry about. We'll then need to get through another platforming section with Nemonids, and I had a slight misstep here, but was able to recover in time. Following this is another precarious frozen lake section, followed by a full spool of silk to heal at. Moving further east and past another servitor, we will unlock a shortcut back to an earlier part of the mountain. This next section is followed by a hidden safe spot. After clawlining between several driftlands and rings, we will hop up to a level ground. We need to quickly move west and break through the debris there to access a heat source and bench to rest at. All that's left is the final stretch. We'll need to clawline up to the east, then air dash / clawline over another spike pit, following it with a well-timed clawline to a nearby driftland. We'll then need to perform a skillful wall jump to get onto level ground and quickly move west towards the next safe spot. This next section has a really difficult wall jump, requiring a very small margin of error to get up and over some wall spikes. After that, it's just a few more claw lines and dashes to reach the next safe spot. After climbing up the nearby tube, we'll need to get over some spikes and move west towards an airstream. We can ride this the rest of the way up, then move east to reach the final safe spot, a tuning mechanism. Interacting with it and playing our Indolent will lead to a short cutscene, the end result of which is unlocking Double Jump or the Faydown Cloak. In addition, the cloak makes us impervious to the cold air of the mountain. There is still more to explore here now that we have the Faydown Cloak, including that mask shard from earlier. However, if we want to leave, we can do so by just jumping off and floating down towards the east. This will get us back to the Slab Bellway in short order, which we can then take to wherever we want to go. We should now have all major traversal upgrades from both Act 1 and Act 2, which will allow us to thoroughly explore Farloom and the Citadel, uncovering all its secrets and loads of upgrades to make us more powerful. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me in the comments, where I will do my best to help. If you want to see more great content, you can head over to my channel, and if you're new, consider subscribing. You're helping me feed my cat. Her name's Marshmallow. Have a great day. If you're here today, have a great Tuesday, and as always, thanks for watching.